Hello everybody and welcome to Project Trade. It is the Trading Highlights show and we are looking at a technical trading strategy. We are trend hunting today and we've got two indicators helping to guide our path into what will hopefully become the light. First up, we've got the 150 period simple moving average. That's right, it's KISS. We are keeping it simple something. I forget how that ends. But here it is though, the 150 period simple moving average. It is just adding together the price of each of the individual periods and dividing that total by 150, then plotting those data points for each period on the chart and handily connecting them with a line which you can choose the color of. And our second indicator is Bill Williams Accelerator Oscillator. There it is beneath the price chart. It's a momentum oscillator that prints as a histogram with a zero line crossover. In its formula, the accelerator oscillator takes the awesome oscillator value and subtracts from it a 5-period simple moving average of the awesome oscillator. So you'll need to know that the awesome oscillator is a 34-period moving average subtracted from a 5-period moving average. I'm sure that if you don't know these indicators, then that explanation most likely sounds a bit confusing. And unfortunately, I am not going to go into any more detail with them here because we have already done videos on the accelerator oscillator, the awesome oscillator, and even that simple moving average. They'll all be linked in the description if that's what you're after. For the rest of us, let's talk about our entry criteria from these indicators to get us into a trade. With our 150 period simple moving average, that is going to be the initial filter on our entries. So if the price is closed above the moving average, then we'll only be taking buy signals. And if it's closed below the average, then we'll only be taking sell signals. Then when it comes to the accelerator oscillator, we are throwing Bill Williams' advice straight out of the window and we are using it as a zero line crossover. Why though, if Bill Williams doesn't really recommend using it like that? Well, Bill Williams uses multiple histogram bars to confirm a trend. So he would say, for example, that you need 2 green histogram bars above the zero line as confirmation of an uptrend. But when backtesting with the accelerator oscillator, it wasn't that often that if the histogram crossed above zero, that it wouldn't print 2 consecutive green bars anyway. That became especially true when you were already using a filter such as the 150 period simple moving average. This means that you could regularly miss out on part of the price move in your trade, but not really be filtering out any bad trades to balance it out. Hence, we are going for the zero line crossover, but we'll track it as we go and we will report back. And also we will only be taking that entry signal on the immediate crossover. If price isn't on the correct side of the moving average for us to enter a trade from the accelerator oscillator crossover, we are not going to give it any time to catch up. It is the close of the first histogram bar as the signal, or it is no signal at all. Here are some examples of entry signals that we would take. I've marked all the histogram bars in yellow where price first closes. Those are 4 buy signals we'd get from the accelerator oscillator when the price is above the moving average. The first 2 of those might get us some profits, but the latter 2, they look no good. And then when price comes below the moving average, there's 3 sell trades that we take there. First one is pretty good, but that second one, not so much, with the third one being quite flat as price goes off the screen. So on the whole, pretty mixed trades on this chart, but we would listen to the system and take all of the trades and let the digital demo funds fall where they may. We must also, of course, manage our money so that we don't end up without any. And the indicator that's going to be helping us with that is the average true range. Video linked in the description. You can see it here, that single line oscillator that measures the average price range over the number of candles that it's asked to look back at. We will ask it to look back at the indicator default of 14 periods. No splits for our trades. When we enter, it will be 1 trade, and for both the take profit and stop loss, it will be 1.5 times the ATR value from our entry price. Naturally, that means we'll need more winning trades than losing trades to be profitable. I think it's possible, maybe. And we'll be risking 1% of our capital per trade. So the volume we use will equate to the amount that means that 1.5 times ATR from our entry price, we will be 1% down on our capital from when we entered the trade. Also, should the accelerator oscillator recross its zero line against our trade direction and close there, then we will manually shut our trade off as we'll assume that the signal has gone. Final couple notes, we will be trading the strategy on a 15-minute time frame. Yep, 15 minutes stuffed into each one of those candles, and we'll be following 3 currency pairs just in case one of them happens to leave us out of trades for days on end. So it's trouble in paradise. We've got the United States dollar versus the Canadian dollar, the euro versus the Swiss franc, and the Australian dollar versus the New Zealand dollar. That's 3 currency pairs, 6 currencies, and a theme of geographically close political allies going hard at one another in the forex wars. What else could you ever possibly need in life? Apart from a journal, of course. That is correct. I finally found a reason to use the skill of writing just like one of those intellectual types, and it is to make sure that we do not let our bias and memory get in the way of truth through trade results. And that's all any of us need to give it a whirl. So let's get into the platform and give it a whirl. Here we are on the charts, just come up to 10:30 in a couple minutes time. The US dollar, Canadian dollar here on the left, in the middle here, the euro, Swiss franc, and then over on the right, the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. And what is going on for us then on these charts? Price has been churning up on the US dollar, Canadian dollar the last hour and a half or so. It's now found its way above the moving average, and the accelerator oscillator very far across zero. Going to take some time to come back down. It might still be above the price when it does. Euro, Swiss franc, nothing for us here either. Same sort of story, has been climbing for even longer than the US dollar, Canadian dollar. Bit of a steady climb during the end of the Asia session, and then the last couple hours really come through here. Still could be coming back down here now, so with a few quick red candles, we could see this come across the moving average and see the accelerator oscillator dip across that zero line. Hopefully not like this signal right here. That's a baddie. Meanwhile, on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar pair over here on the right, bit more action going on. We are pretty close to a crossover. You can barely see any of these histogram bars. That was a positive, that was a negative, and then positive, 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 negative, still just negative at the moment, but we see this green price coming. So in fact, let's wait for this to roll over 5 seconds time here to 10:30, and we will get the new histogram bar appear here. And as we can see, pretty green. If we zoom back out just to make sure, price comfortably above that 150 period moving average. So if it closes out like this in 15 times, we will have a buy trade on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. It's a very shallow reading though on the accelerator oscillator. So if we see a big red candle, could easily see that flip back across and get no signal from it. Even if we do get the signal, if it's going to crisscross like this, it's not going to be something we want. We're after proper moves here of at least 1.5 times ATR. So we'll watch for that closely if we do get the entry. You see it's very close to getting below zero there. Down now at 0.000007. We do have a little bit of time though, so let's check out our economic calendar, see what's going on today. Some of these numbers haven't come through. In fact, none of the numbers come through. Did try a restart of MetaTrader just to see if they would pop in there, but they are lacking in data currently. So we should have had the Australian dollar retail sales month-on-month numbers come through. Previous negative 2.7 forecast here at 0.8. Don't know if that's correct, but it did come in at negative 1.7. So regardless of forecast, a pretty poor reading for them there. Also in Germany in the Eurozone, should have had the consumer climate from the GfK Institute come through. It's forecast at negative 0.7 with the previous of negative 1.2. And did actually come in at 0.3, so pretty good. Nice beat for them there. They'll be happy with that. Consumers getting a little bit more confident maybe going into the Christmas period. We'll see if any of these other numbers come in throughout the day. Nothing really that's going to affect us as we go, but here's some of them. You've got 10:30 Swedish trade balance. That should have come in 5 minutes ago. 11 o'clock South African Rand quarterly bulletin. 11:30 Hong Kong dollar trade balance. 2 o'clock, Mexican peso unemployment rate there. Then 3 o'clock, we've got ECB President Christine Lagarde making a speech. It seems like it could have a lot of impact, but she makes a lot of speeches. A lot of the time, they just don't impact. Might see a small increase in volatility, but again, not always, depending on what she's talking about. Then 3:30 on the US dollar, a bit more interesting with the numbers here. The goods trade balance coming in and the retail inventories month on month, along with the retail inventories excluding autos. Also month on month. Even though those aren't particularly heavy duty, the fact that it's US dollar, we are trading on the US dollar, and the kick over it might have in volatility and volume at that time, 3:30. That'll be the time to watch, just under 5 hours till then. And then throughout the rest of the day, it just sort of dwindles off with a lot of different speeches across the Eurozone from the ECB and also in the US dollar. Snuck in there though, with 5 o'clock alongside Fed Chair Powell's testimony, is actually the CB Consumer Confidence Index. So 5 o'clock could also be a volatile time, especially being alongside Fed Chair Powell's testimony. It's where he goes in front of a committee or some sort of the US Congress. He gives the overview of what's been happening and then the outlook of the future. People are often pretty interested in what Jay Powell's got to say. Not surprisingly, as the chairman of the central bank of the strongest currency in the world. But yeah, 3:30, 5 o'clock, those are the big times we'll be watching. And we'll be hoping that these numbers actually do feed through as well. Maybe someone has fallen asleep at the wheel and just forgot to update them. For now though, on the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar pair, price continuing to push a little bit, accelerator oscillator still above zero, and we got 4.5 minutes until the close there. About 40 seconds to go, price coming down, but the accelerator oscillator still above zero, and that is what we're after. So let's pull up our average true range here on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. Currently showing 5.5 pips, that's what we're going to go for as our reading. It's coming back down that accelerator oscillator. Ugh, don't know about this. We do get the close though, it's still above zero even though it might flip. We need the close of the flip across zero though to actually get out of the trade. So here we go, there is our risk on screen now because of this low level ATR currently showing, well, it was 5.5 is what we've gone for. So 1.5 times that is 8.25 pips. It's going to be very narrow, quite a bit of volume here. So let's go in 1% risk with our buy trade. There is our trade then, what a trade it is. We can set our stop loss and take profit here. Let's round that up, 83 and 83 here. You can certainly see the stop loss there. Where's that take profit? Let's zoom out again, zoom out again, zoom out again. There it is, we finally see it. So this is a tall order to get all the way up to there, to be honest. Seems much more likely to come down, but it has been strengthening over this period, and all we're asking for is 1.5 times ATR to the good. We are also seeing on the Euro Swiss franc the accelerator oscillator now coming below zero. That is a crossover right there. Currently it's still above the moving average, so price will have a long way to go to be able to actually give the signal. It's possible though. Anything's possible. Just rolling over 11 o'clock. Our trade going pretty nicely at the minute. $33 in profit. About a third of the way there to our take profit. And in the middle here on the Euro Swiss franc, we do see that cross below zero on the accelerator oscillator is sustained. However, with price moving upwards now, it's currently an incredibly shallow reading. In fact, it's just gone positive there. So we may see a crossover here on the Euro Swiss franc as well, getting us into a buy trade. And as we see the candle finish red there on the Euro Swiss franc, the accelerator oscillator does move quite a bit more below zero. So no sustained signal there. This is why you have to wait for the close and can't just go in over a little bit of a crossover. Meanwhile, our trade ticking along nicely. Did get to a low last period that came beneath our entry price, but now back into profit. Price continuing to find new highs here. We can now see the take profit there on our trade on the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. It's very close. Is it going to go there? Let's have one more push. Just find a new high here if you can. And we get the trigger there. Our take profit goes. What a trade. $100.18. You can see the run up there from blue to red. That is good. The first trade a winner. Very nice to see. No other signals tempting us right now, but they can come on quick with the accelerator oscillator. And this is how it can sneak up at you. Over on the US dollar, Canadian dollar there on the left, you can barely see it, as is sometimes the case there, but that value is a negative value on the accelerator oscillator. If price could push below the average, then it would very likely mean that that would be a crossover and would be a sell signal for us. Could see that come. Meanwhile, we are wishing over on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, we were still in that trade. The ratio, it did seem to do us well as price pulled back here to a new low. Thought we were going to catch the top, but here it comes into new highs. Potentially more could have been got out of it. We'll see how much further it goes. 12.14. We're seeing a big push on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar. Still wishing we were in that. Meanwhile, the sell-off of the Euro Swiss franc continues as we see a big red candle. But we are going to zoom in on the main player here, the US dollar, Canadian dollar. Zoom in right there. Currently it's still reading a negative value on the accelerator oscillator. Price now shifted below the moving average. Didn't look like it was going to when it was up here at this high there. Didn't look like we were going to get that close. Now it does. Let's pull up our ATR. Currently showing 11.9 pips. That is what we will go for. And there's the close. We do get the entry signal just about as we see that accelerator oscillator as well get lower down there in its value. And there we go. You can see our risk calculator on screen now. Definitely a bit smaller volume here. Wider stop loss with that higher ATR there. So we are in for a sell trade. Let's set our stop loss and take profit. Again, 1% capital risk. 179 points or 17.9 pips. Stop loss here at the resistance level. So hopefully if we are going to see anything, we at least see lower highs come if it retraces for an overall downward trend. Something that makes me a little less confident about the trade is when you see this level over here. It does seem like it could end up being a support level. This might be a retracement that it just bounces into this one and then continues upward. We did get those economic calendar numbers feed through as well. So there's the retail sales month on month, actual negative 1.7, as we said, and the GfK consumer climate there, 0.3. And the other couple numbers that have come out since then, 10:30 on the Swedish currency. They missed out on their trade balance by just a little bit there. And same at 11:30 on the Hong Kong dollar. Trade balance, not usually the most impactful. That was only the goods trade balance for Sweden as well. So missing those by a touch shouldn't cause any major grievances. Still though, everybody would like to have a positive trade balance. So we've had so far, nothing else coming up for a bit. Still looking at 3:30 and 5 o'clock as the big times to watch. As we do see the price move to our favour a bit now, that's what we want. If it can keep coming down, find those lows, red candle after red candle, we are happy to take the profit. See how it goes? And we get the close of the candle there. Price has moved against us and moved above the moving average there, the 150. That's not a signal for us to close there. We're only taking close signals from either the stop loss or the accelerator oscillator. That's still showing below zero, so we are good for the trade, although obviously not too happy that it's going against us. Almost halfway towards our stop loss. So for the return, edging closer towards our stop loss here. Not what we want to see. Consecutive green candles have been coming. This is where we need that higher low to occur here. Let's see that pull back. No, come the other way, come back down. Let's have a big drop off into the red now. No, it does bounce. It bounces off the support level here and it takes out that stop loss there. So that is a full and complete loss, wiping out the gains that we made from the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. A little bit more. We started exactly on $10,000 there. 29 cents below it now. If we do get a couple more candles, then we will sure enough see this go above zero again, and that would get us into a buy trade. Let's watch out for that. We do see that reverse crossover at 1 o'clock. Accelerator oscillator now above zero. So if it closes like that, we will be in with a buy trade on this US dollar, Canadian dollar. Not too long since we got out of that sell trade. Well, we didn't get out of it. The stop loss got us out of it. I was kind of happier with this entry to begin with. Now getting back in the other way doesn't feel great. Seems like it could bounce off this resistance level once we're in and then come back down here, trigger our stop loss right at the support level there. 1:14 p.m. and it looks like we will be getting into this trade in a minute's time here. Zoom in US dollar, Canadian dollar, and let's get that ATR up. 11.2 pips, that's what we're going to go for there. 112 points. 1.5 times that is 16.8 pips. Our risk is calculated on screen now. We are getting back in with a buy trade this time. Feels like we're basically giving away 1% of our account here, but I would love to be proved wrong. We've certainly seen bigger run-ups than this. If we could catch one of those right there, wouldn't mind some of that. Let's go. And of course we will just pop on that stop loss and that take profit there at the 168 point mark. Modify that and there we go. And we are hoping that if there is a retracement, let it just be a brief retracement here. I mean, these green candles, they can't go on forever. It does feel like we're going to be right at the end of the tailwind there. Meanwhile, we did also get a zero line crossover on the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. Beneath zero, it closed there after a big sell-off came. Not a trade we can take as the price is above the moving average, so we're buy trades only. Going to have to wait for that to recross now. And also on the Euro Swiss franc here, we can see price coming above the moving average, and it's another crossover on the accelerator oscillator. So if half-past one comes 13 minutes time, and this is just as it is now, then we'll also be getting into a buy trade here in favor of the euro. You never know, looking across at this US dollar Canadian dollar pair, we might be out of that trade before we get into the euro one. And look at how fast this has dropped here, only 3.5 minutes into our trade, and it is already getting absolutely crushed here, about 3/4 of the way to the stop loss. Momentum really out of the sails here. Trade still in a loss at the moment, but only about 1/3 of the way to the stop loss. Much better than previously. But let's zoom in on this Euro Swiss franc pair. Has been below the moving average plenty, currently above it though, which means we will get the signal as is. Let's pull up the ATR, we'll want to know that either way. So we've got 8.3 pips on the ATR. 1.5 times that number is 12.45 pips. And we get the close. There is our risk calculated on screen now. Do a nice bit of rounding there, 0.75 volume. Let's pop this stop loss and take profit in there. There we go. Zoom out, see if we can see. That is our take profit right up, again at a resistance level. See, it feels like a long way to go at the moment. And similarly, support level down here. Again, it would take a while to get there, hopefully without some crazy downward volatility. So we've now got two trades open, both of them running a little bit of a loss at the moment, but there is certainly hope out there for us. It is a 2:15 now. Both of our trades, not really anything happening with them. You can see US dollar, Canadian dollar, very rangy over the last hour or so, and same in the euro Swiss franc. Something we are looking at is with the US dollar, Canadian dollar, that accelerator oscillator is actually below the zero level now, which means if it closes like that half past, we will have to manually close the trade out wherever we are. So if we're going to see a move, we need it to come now. The euro Swiss franc pair will threaten the same thing soon if price doesn't make a move. It will just sort of run out of momentum and eventually cross zero. But it has got a couple more bars than the US dollar, Canadian dollar. Here comes the close of that candle then, and we are going to see the accelerator oscillator finish below. So we manually close off our US dollar trade. That's a loss of $39.06. So not a full 1% capital loss, but still 0.4%. Certainly not a win there. Would be nice if the accelerator oscillator kept on going when it's in a range here, because even though it's flipped, we're not actually seeing a trend direction movement at all. It's just come down a small amount. We've just seen more lows really than the highs we've seen. So a bit unfortunate there. We might see it break one way or the other soon. Finally, we did see the Mexican peso unemployment rate come through. They had a 4.3% actual against a 5% forecast and a 5.4% previous. Good growth for them. I'll be pleased to get that unemployment rate down. And what we do see now on our euro Swiss franc trade, the accelerator oscillator has moved below zero. That does mean we're in the same position now as we just were with that US dollar, Canadian dollar trade. If it closes like this, we've got to close the trade and accept whatever loss we've got. It did create quite a low there. Remember, as the accelerator oscillator uses medium price, that low can make quite the difference. So let's hope for a bit of a return once more, see if we can get into some profit just to be able to snack some at the last minute or even flip it with a crazy big run. That would always be appreciated. 5 seconds to go here. It is going to be a manual close of our trade as we roll over 3 o'clock there and we shut it off again for a similar amount as last time. Very similar to our US dollar, Canadian dollar trade. $35 off this one. It was $39 off the last, but still a loss though. Let's see, because I mean, this one on the US dollar, Canadian dollar, it's worth noting that where we got out here, if we had stayed in, if the accelerator oscillator hadn't taken us out, it would have been stop loss city for us. And that would have been a full 1% loss in the end. So we were saved by the accelerator in a way. Possible that we see the same scenario play out on the euro Swiss franc. Meanwhile, as my gaze finds its way to the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar pair, I can see that the accelerator oscillator has just crossed above zero, and we do have price above that moving average there, which means 3:15, we could well be going in with a buy trade. 3:14 p.m. here, and this Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar does look like it's going to give us the go ahead. Let's get onto that chart, pull up our ATR, currently reading 6.5 pips, 65 points, 6 pips, 5 pipettes. That's what we're going to go for. We times that by 1.5 and we get 9.75 pips. Here comes the close, and it does come. We do get the buy signal, price above, accelerator oscillator crosses. That is our risk, and in we go. As per every trade, let's do our stop loss and our take profit there, equidistance from one another. And we're really in the middle of a sort of range here. We've had a resistance level up here, a support level down here. Anyone's guess which way it's going to go. Could bounce off where we are now, but we've also got numbers coming in at 3:30 on the US dollar. We could see increased volatility in the markets in general, see a volume spike here. Let's get some green, let's get the take profit. We need a winning trade to get us back above 10,000 again. Nothing else on the other charts at the moment, but they are both coming up on the accelerator oscillator, and both of them would give buy trades crossing above zero. Our trade edging itself towards the stop loss here as we go into 3:30. Here comes those numbers, goods trade balance and retail inventories month on month on the US dollar. And there it is. That didn't take long. Just about 2 candles. Looks like we got in right at the very top of this run up here for a full 1% loss on that one, which is taking us into considerable amount of losses here, especially when you consider that we did get a winning trade right at the start of the day. We are now down $176.59. And as we get into the new candle here, you can see we are getting dual signals here from the US dollar, Canadian dollar, and the euro Swiss franc. All they've got to do is close to the positive there on the accelerator oscillator, and we are in both of them. Back in fact, because we've already been in buy trades for both of them just a couple hours ago. So why not get back in at an even higher price on them? The trusty accelerator oscillator. Let's see where we're at in 15 minutes. It does look as though we are going to get both these entry signals here in a minute. Let's pull up those ATRs. Let's do our US dollar, Canadian dollar first. We got 12.1 pips there as the ATR, which is 18.15 for the stop loss take profit. 6.2 on the euro Swiss franc as we come into the close here. There's 9.3 pips to the stop loss, and we do get it there. You can see double entries. So we are ready. You can see for the US dollar, Canadian dollar, it's a buy trade. There is our risk calculated on screen now. Very nice volume amount. So let's go in with a buy. And on the euro Swiss franc, here is our risk for that one. You can see that calculated there. And it's a buy trade here also. Double trades here. So confident about that. Let's do stop loss and take profit for the US dollar, Canadian dollar pair. There it is. Once again, we can see the stop loss, the take profit up in the clouds somewhere as we're hoping for this to continue and not come back into the support level here. And with the euro Swiss franc pair, 93 and 93. There we go. And again, you can see the stop loss, not the take profit. It's up there somewhere. Yeah, I don't know about this. These are the 3:30 entries basically. It's just gone 4 o'clock now, but it's the power that's come into the market from the 3:30 takeover there. The volume that comes in, you can see it's increased, and they've been buying the dollars, they've been buying the euros. Now it's a good chance it's going to be time for that retracement, and we could see 1% plus another 1%, 2% of our capital disintegrate further here. It's trade number 6 and 7 for the day. One period in here, pretty grim situation at the moment. The US dollar, Canadian dollar, definitely threatening that stop loss. Very close there, about 3/4 of the way. The euro Swiss franc not going quite as bad, but still halfway towards our stop loss. Oh, there we go. Stop loss triggers on the US dollar, Canadian dollar. Another loss for the accelerator oscillator. Look at the choppiness here. Another $100 gone. Now we're down to 9,720, and this is dropping quick. Our euro Swiss franc still in loss, but it is coming back a bit to our favor. We might get into a touch of profit, but these trades do keep getting shorter as well. This Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar was gone by the next period, and same now with the US dollar, Canadian dollar, gone by the very next period. That accelerator oscillator tries to be quick, ends up too slow still. It's our experience so far at least. Quite the bounce back in price here on the euro Swiss franc over the last couple minutes. You can see how close that came to our stop loss there, and now just a bounce right up, almost back near our entry price now. Let's have some more of that. Keep pushing green. And what a close that was on the candle. Look at that. And it continues to push. We are over halfway towards our take profit. Let's see if we can finally once again feel what it's like to win. Very close to our take profit now. We can actually see that level. It looks like it's going to push. The only disappointing thing is we can see how the euro Swiss franc trade is really mirroring the US dollar, Canadian dollar over here. There is our take profit. Brilliant. That is fantastic. Absolutely over the moon with that. But as I was saying, US dollar, Canadian dollar, there's a chance we could have got profit out of this as well. It wouldn't have got there yet, so we'd have to still see some more green over here. Hasn't pushed like the euro Swiss franc did for us, but it could be that we were knocked out pretty close to the bottom there. It did go a touch lower, so we weren't right at the bottom, but that massive green candle was duplicated over here on the US dollar, Canadian dollar. Let's see if it can go much further. $100 back for us though. At least we got back the profits from that loss. So now those two trades basically cancelling each other out. And the US dollar really strengthening there. Likely that would have been our take profit had we not been cut out here. You can see an increase in volume. That came 4:30. Stock market opened as well then. And we got 10 minutes until these conference board consumer confidence index numbers come out, as well as Fed Chair Powell's testimony. The clock strikes 5. Let's see if we can get even more increased volume. And we finally got all these numbers through. So the US dollar goods trade balance came in at negative 87.6 billion. That was against the forecast of negative 88.6 billion. Slightly better than expected for them. And then retail inventories coming in month on month at 0.1% against 0.4% forecast. 4 o'clock, we did also get on the US dollar the house price index composite 20. 19.9% year on year against the forecast and 19.6%. About as expected there. Here's the big one though, the consumer confidence that came in at 5 o'clock. It did come in weaker despite the fact that we are seeing the dollar strengthen here. That is 109.3 actual against 121.5 forecast. So quite a miss there. Consumers not as confident as the forecasts expected them to be. Just coming up to 6 o'clock here, and we do have to watch out on this euro Swiss franc. We are seeing a crossover here under on the accelerator oscillator. Price is above the moving average now, but it's very close. Let's pull up our ATR just in case. If it does give us the signal, we'd go for 7.8 pips, which would be 11.7 pips to the stop loss and the take profit, but it does not come. So even if it keeps going down now, that signal's been missed. We didn't get the close across the average. I thought there might have been a buy signal coming up on the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar as well, but that is still below zero there. And we see on the US dollar, Canadian dollar pair, US dollar strengthening again, getting a close above that previous high. Since it looks like we are going to have to wait a little bit before we get an entry signal, we are going to call it there for the end of the session. We've seen at the peak of the volume now, it's going to start trailing off. Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen are still speaking to Congress, but I definitely imagine that this will start petering off. We were able to snag a couple wins in this one here. That was very lucky because now it really does look like we got out right at the top there, and it makes up for the bad luck we had here where we got knocked out at the bottom and it actually reversed. So balances out there. Overall, not a good day though. $181.15 down from it. 7 trades, 5 losers, 2 winners. We will be back for a second session though in the morning. Let's just have a look at those trades in the journal before we go. There's the full story in the journal then. 7 trades. I will say that was a lot more than I expected. And the low point was these 2 buy trades here. I'd say the full 1% losses. They both went really quick. This Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar buy trade gone in 19 minutes to the stop loss, and the US dollar, Canadian dollar gone in 20 minutes there. It is a red sandwich here on the journal, but there's too much filling. We got these gains on the either side. At least we did get a full 1%. This one rounded down a little bit with the volume, but still very lucky to get the take profit there. There is potential here, but we need a few of these lucky trades in a row, I would say. If this could flip in the next session to be 5 gains and 2 losses, suddenly we could be looking pretty profitable again. We'll be back for session 2.